I'm frequently asked by other sim racers whether they should upgrade their pedals, the main question being, are their Heusinkveld Sprints actually worth it? And if that's the only question you came here to get an answer to, the answer is yes. If you can afford them, go ahead and do it. Pedals are the single most important piece of sim racing hardware in my opinion, and you'll see instant improvements in your consistently and ultimately your overall performance in a race situation. Heusinkveld makes some of the best looking pedals on the market, strategically positioned where the consumer market meets the professional market. These pedals pack a punch and feel and look like real race car parts. The thickness of metals and materials used, coupled with the sleek design, make these an amazing centerpiece on your rig. On the left you'll see the various sections in this review. If there's a particular section that you'd like to jump to, I've put a list of clickable timestamps in the description below. While you're down there, please hit subscribe, and if you want to stay up to date, hit the little bell icon as well. And if you could give it a like, that'd be great as well. Every time a sim racer subscribes to my channel, it helps YouTube recommend my content to other sim racers like you. I used these pedals several times on my friends' rigs before I ever got to review them, and I already liked them. But you cannot base a real review on occasional use. Every setup is different. You need to use the product as if you own it over an extended period of time, and thanks to digitalmotorsports.com, I've gotten the opportunity to do just that. Welcome to my review of the Heusinkveld Sprint pedals and baseplate. Setup and installation. The individual pedals come pre-assembled, so if you're mounting them to your rig's pedal plate, it should be relatively straightforward using the nuts and bolts and washers provided. However, you're likely to need to do some drilling if that's the case, as most base plates simply cannot accommodate every possible configuration for your driving style and personal preference. Before you do drill holes though, make sure the pedal plate on your rig is at least 5mm thick, otherwise you'll very likely end up with flex, which is very annoying, and you'll eventually just end up buying a Heusinkveld's baseplate anyway. The Heusinkveld baseplate is extremely durable, yet it doesn't compromise the looks in any way. In fact, I think these pedals look even better with the baseplate. It's well worth the extra cash, and it makes the pedals feel a bit more complete. While the pedals come pre-assembled, I found the baseplate a little bit more complex to assemble than I thought it would be. It's just the baseplate, how hard can it be? This was mainly due to an awkward washer placement for the footrest. This washer isn't really even needed, and if you watch Barry Rowland's review for Sim Racing Garage, he didn't install it at all, so it serves me right for reading the manual. I also found that once I initially assembled them, my feet didn't sit on the pedal faces correctly, so I needed to raise the footrest that my heels actually sit on. This involved unbolting half the pedal base again, including that finicky washer, which I lost under the couch several times, and I probably should have just ignored the first few times it slipped out during assembly. During a live stream, one of my subscribers told me that you can simply flip the pedal faces and they're not as far away from the baseplate when you do so. That would have been the easier thing to do. I did look at the faceplate adjustment, but as there was only one mounting hole, you can't move them up or down. Flipping it upside down makes sense in a way, but the logo not being consistent with the other logos, I think that it kind of annoyed me a bit more than it actually should. Once assembled though, it all works and it all looks and feels worth the effort. The mounting holes underneath the baseplate are the same as the Thrustmaster mounting points. This means that they quite easily fit most rigs with pre-drilled mounting holes. Again, I found the nuts and bolts and washers just a little bit finicky. They're a little bit like a generic kit that you pick up at a hardware store. They don't feel like they belong to this otherwise really refined product. I'd like to see threaded nuts welded to the metal support structure so that I need one less spanner and have one less tiny part to worry about and lose while keeping it all in place and clambering under my rig's pedal plate to see if the holes line up, and it was just a bit finicky. And doing this review, I took them off the rig loads of times, put them back on, and it was just really annoying having to do that. It would be really nice if they just slotted in place and it was a single bolt that I could just ratchet up. It would have been very easy. Baseplate aside, connecting the pedals couldn't be simpler. You simply plug the clutch and throttle into the brake pedal, then connect the brake pedal to your PC with a USB-B connection, and that's it, you're ready to drive. Software. The Heusinkveld Control Center software has an easy calibration function, allowing you to easily configure how you want the pedals to behave. You don't have to make full use of the 60 kg load cell if you don't want to. Truth be told, I didn't. I love the ability to do so, but I didn't need it. Other than a quick calibration, you shouldn't need this software and don't need to worry about having it running when you're using your pedals. Throttle. All 3 pedals use a load cell. That seems somewhat alien, as we usually think of the brake pedal only when we mention load cells. But Heusinkveld preferred that approach to using a potentiometer or a magnetic encoder. The throttle feels really good out of the box. I'm used to slightly longer travel than the default, so I adjusted it slightly. I like the longer setting because I frequently drive cars without traction control, and having a throttle pedal that gives me good confidence really helps with those tricky corner exits. You also appreciate a high quality dependable throttle pedal like this when it comes to slight lift-offs and high speed sections. Clutch. As with the throttle, a load cell is used for the clutch. It has a good throw and a decent weight to it. There's a bite point in the clutch travel which is simulated by a hinged mechanism, similar to some other pedal sets. This is quite nice and one of the better ones that I've used, but it's a little bit difficult to simulate all the different types of clutch pedal out there. The solution they offer is fairly middle of the road in terms of mimicking what a fast road car would do, or what a real competition clutch might feel like. Brake. This is the one we all want to know about. Out of the box, I found the dampers too hard on this brake pedal, but cutting to the chase, this pedal set is one of the best in the consumer market. The Sprints are far better than the Club Sport V3s, even with the performance kit. I'm a huge fan of my Field VR pedals, and it didn't take long for me to find my feet with the Sprints. My braking is good and consistent, and I have a high level of confidence in these pedals. Many of my sim racing friends swear by their Sprints, and I can see why. You're really getting into the realms of realistic braking. However, if you're expecting the dynamic nature of real brakes, these pedals still belong in the non-hydraulic, basic load cell category. Every time you brake, the feedback is the exact same, regardless of speed or traction. This has positives though, as you can learn and remember exactly where your lockup point is for each corner in each car. The pedal face feels nice and wide on the brake. Heel toe is simple, and I've actually not done much adjustment to the angles of the pedals at all, thanks to the adjustable pedal plate on my Simetik K2 rig. This leads us nicely into the adjustment section. Adjustment. There's loads of adjustment available. From the height of the footrest to the faces of the pedals, you can angle the pedals and space them whatever way suits thanks to this well engineered base plate. The throw of each of the pedals is easy to adjust by moving the bump stop. You can also adjust the angles of the pedals independently, which is a major bonus for certain driving styles. Adjustment is a little tricky at times though, and I wondered when I opened the box first why they supplied the kit with 2 little rivets, but it's simply to act as a placeholder for the bolt, which allows you to change the angle of the pedal. If you don't use the rivet, it's like a game of Buckaroo and it takes quite a bit of fiddling to get back together. I found that out the hard way, but hopefully this video will help you avoid that mistake. Changing the brake dampers is also more complex than I'd like it to be. I found myself using the default setup and thinking I'd like more travel on the brake. 20 minutes later I finally made the adjustment for the first time. I booted up my game again and thought to myself, is that better or is it worse? Because it takes so long to make adjustments, I found it very hard to compare my new configuration to my old one. This was quite annoying and time consuming. I think that the type of people who spend this much on pedals either race a lot or race very little. I'm in the latter category and tend not to like sacrificing my race time having to fiddle with spanners and spacers. If I was to find one flaw with this product, that would be it. I'd love to see a simpler solution for adjusting the throw and progression of the brake pedal. Eventually, I got a comfortable setup with 2 of the larger dampers as shown. Although it took a while the first few times, once you're familiar with changing out the dampers, it does get easier, but just make sure you keep track of the order that you do things in, because it's a pain if you get it in the wrong order or forget to put in the harder spacers between the dampers. The kit comes with all the necessary little spanners and Allen keys, although I'd really like to see less tooling be required, considering the potential simplicity of this assembly. So how does it compare to non-load cell brakes? Many people still ask if pedals like this are much better than their Logitech or Thrustmaster non-load cell pedals. The truth is, any load cell brake is a major upgrade for anybody who doesn't currently have load cell. Even a good load cell mod for your existing pedals is a decent investment. Initially, you'll miss the lack of travel in the brake pedal, but once you focus on your driving and your consistency on track, you'll miss that travel less and less. I like a balance, that's why I've gone for the softer dampers on my adjustments on these pedals. Once you use load cell pedals, you'll never go back to non-load cell. So how do they compare to the Fanatec Club Sport V3 pedals? I made a big statement earlier, saying that the brake is far better than the Club Sport V3, even with the performance kit. I stand over this statement, and if I was to have an estimate, I'd say the Sprints are at least 50% better than the Club Sports. However, the Club Sports have little rumble motors, which I absolutely love, and the shape of the Fanatec Throttle for heel toe just feels less wearing on my feet when I race in socks. However, that's where it ends. If Fanatec wants to compete with Heusinkveld, they need to seriously up their game, because right now, Fanatec's flagship pedals aren't as good as Heusinkveld's entry-level offering. Final thought. These are well worth the money. Honestly, before I ever tried them, I thought they were just well designed, well marketed versions of a relatively average pedal set. I still feel that they're not perfect, but they're light years ahead of any non-load cell pedal sets, and also leave Fanatec offerings for dead in their default form. Sim racing still has quite a lot to do when it comes to pedals, like the resistance in a throttle that seems to get light when the wheels spin up, or that connection that a real car has between the gear stick and the clutch that gives you the confidence to pin it as well as the awareness to back off. I guess those points aren't fully relevant to this product, but as for brakes, I think that load cell technology is great, but not yet where we need true brake pedal simulation to be. Remember, I said this is the most important sim racing piece of hardware, and I just don't think we've even scratched the surface of what's possible. Every time you brake in a real car, it's slightly different, but intuitive and communicative. Those variables and those tiny bits of feedback that help you anticipate or release a lockup are absolutely essential if we're to properly simulate real racing. For now, you can't go wrong with a set of Heusinkveld Sprints, and there's nothing readily available for the consumer market out there that matches their performance on any level. Ultimately, we just want a pedal set that makes us confident and consistent. This pedal set may do that better than any other, depending on your own preference. This is an amazing product which feels premium from unboxing right through to the competitive league races that I've been subjecting them to for the last month. I've never had the fortune of trying the flagship Heusinkveld pedals, the Heusinkveld Ultimates, and would love to do a comparison at some stage in the future, but until then, the Sprints have risen right to the top of my list of consumer grade, readily available pedals. As we continue to expect more from our sim racing products, it's great to see companies like digitalmotorsports.com supplying and selling products like these, as well as providing opportunities for people like me to share our opinions and our in-depth reviews. I recommend having a look at their entire range of pedals and let your imagination wander into the possibilities of what could be. They've been kind enough to give me this opportunity to review these pedals over the last month so that I could share it with you, but I'd like us all to repay them by just having a quick visit to their site, have a browse around, and if you buy from them, do tell them that I sent you. I'm Lawrence, and I hope you've enjoyed this review. Don't forget to hit like on this video, as it really helps my channel. Chat to you later.